But this is an example of a cove. And this is an example of an oval or a round on the same board. And of course, grain orientation is instrumental in getting that right. I'm Norman Perlo, a furniture designer and maker at Perlo Design and woodworking educator, author at WoodSkills. I'll just continue with this for a bit more. Now, you don't necessarily have to use a sticking board. You can actually somehow clamp this down to your workbench, but you risk damaging your workbench if the plane's too close or something. So the sticking boards are ideal, and they provide that fence, so it keeps the wood against the workpiece against the fence and keeps it from rotating. And I've also added the holdfasts. There isn't too much involved to creating these holdfasts. I think I'll stop there. So this is what I've accomplished so far. So I have the bottom rabbet, which actually creates that fillet, the bottom fillet. I have the top fillet created. So these are two fillets, and this is the two irises for that rabbet for the cove itself that I'll be working with now. So you can actually see the cove being formed already. And it's just a matter of orienting this up or down, vertically or horizontally, to get that profile, to get a better profile there. Let me just start with this. So I notice I'm cutting into the vertical edge a little more. So reoriented the camera so you can probably have a better view of the end here. So I'm going to be so I have a vertical now because I want to deepen that. So I'll just stop for a bit and show you how I've progressed so far. So this is where I am. This is the actual cove being developed, and it's uniform along its horizontal side, and it's uniform across the vertical side. And that orienting the round plane, and to be able to do that. And these are the two fillets. So I'm actually going down to this point and that point. So just continuing on with this, just always eyeballing the shape to confirm that. If I had a slightly larger one number up from this round plane, it would have been a little easier for me to do on this size board with this profile. So I'll just show you where we're at. So this is the final profile, and this is where we're at. So very, very close, within a 1/16 of an inch I need to work on this upper part. And these are the fillets, they're defined. And I make sure everything's uniform across, both fillets, thickness. So I'll just continue with that. We're almost done, so it's just some touch. Doesn't necessarily have to match, but so I can slice this off now, and I have another version of a cove on the end of a board, the edge of a board, and I just show a different technique. So something else I do afterwards, I don't burnish the surface and polish it. I don't never use sandpaper. Sandpaper will both destroy the profile and dull the finish. Never apply any sandpaper to something like this after you've spent all this time creating it. And I just pick up a handful of shavings that I've created and just burnish just be careful to not get your any skin against that. You can get a nice splinter, and just burnish that. And you'll be amazed at how it cleans the wood up and polishes it. Beautiful polished surface, now smooth, uniform across, and it's all done with hand tools. So this is how it was done hundreds of years ago, from 250 years ago to about 100 years ago possibly. And this that was done again is the people that did this in the workshops. And so I think the next video or the next version of this, I'll be working on a round. And did I demonstrate that? Did I show that somewhere? So that's the one I just created. That's an earlier one, but this is the round. A little more involved because you could develop facets if you don't have the right plane, or if the plane has any pitting on it, or the blade itself. You will notice plane tracks, so that's something to work around, and I can show that. So these are the two fillets. This is an earlier one, and this is today's, and you can see how polished it is and smooth. Okay, so I'll stop now, and So going back to this particular rabbet plane with the moving fence or the philister, it's a very versatile plane. They're widely available, and I wasn't sure the number, but it's a 78. It's stamped right there. So it's, and this one's made in Canada, bonus. So it's probably a more recent version in the last 30 to 40 years, this one. They were still not find, and creates problems. These disc ones don't seem to do that. So, and this one has the micro adjust also. So I can dial it in, forward or back. So that's it, and I'll continue with the next profile, the round profile or the ovalo in the next segment. So I hope this video segment has helped you better understand how furniture was created hundreds of years ago, primarily in the 18th, 19th, early 20th century, using the simplest of tools, these round and these hollow planes, and using a combination of them to create multiple profiles or different, more complex profiles. And they did develop planes that actually created complete profiles. This is an OG with a round or an ovalo at the top and a cove at the bottom, with again the two fillets. So it's just a more complex version of this simple one we've created today with just a simple cove. So it combines both. It's a little deeper. So they have planes to do that, and I guess, they were actually interested in production at the time too, so they had to do something, or as opposed to using individual planes, just create one single plane that created the more complex moldings, and I have a few here actually. But it's important to understand how to use these hollows and rounds to create multiple different custom profiles that you can design for your own picture frames or furniture. Add more detail to your furniture, either directly onto the edge of the furniture or an applied molding. So you could actually just, you notice I've created 2 different profiles on both sides, so you can actually just rip this down, and I have 2 similar profiles to work with already on the shorter board, and shorter board again just for demonstration, but again you could scale everything up to 3 or 4 feet here. I do have an example of, an example of different profiles that I've actually ripped. So I use that same process, create the profile along an edge and then rip it and then create another and another. So I have, so just kind of give you an idea. These are mostly beading type profiles that are created with a quirk. This is a bead with a quirk, or that's what it is. Yeah, it could be an astragal, I'm not sure. But different type of, and actually probably do a video on beading molding planes. So rip them and then apply them to a piece of furniture on the top or the bottom. And here's this is an example of an astragal. It's an interesting shape. It has a fillet on both sides and a half circle round in the middle. Just one plane actually does this. That's another example of a molding. Notice the profile. So that's I'd say that's an astragal in the middle, or a half round with 2 quirks, but the bead at the outside edge. So there's so much you can do with this, but the basics, the building blocks are the hollows and rounds. And so I hope you have a better understanding of this process, and possibly apply it to your own furniture making if you so choose. You just get away from using routers and predefined profiles that are only available with router bits, and create your own. It's much quieter, and if you're in an environment where you can't create much noise, you can't develop any noise, you might bother neighbors in a condo or an apartment or something, you have a small workbench, you can actually create moldings using this process, and it's extremely quiet. So it's just a matter of dimensioning some wood beforehand, the wood you'll need, and ripping it down. You can rip it down by hand and then use a hand plane to adjust the edge. And this is the one we've created today. Now these sticking boards are fairly easy to create. They're very simple. You don't have to get as elaborate as I have with the hold downs. You can do away with the hold downs if necessary, and just create a baseboard with a fence. And you don't even need to use my system of plugging it into the workbench. You don't have to do that either. Just use holdfasts. And just where's the holdfast? So this is a holdfast, and I would normally just bang it in there and hold it there. So that's the holdfast. So I'll probably be discussing, likely in the next episodes, the different profiles, and then ultimately finish with an OG, which is fairly standard type molding. And if you can create the Cove and the round and the OG, you will have enough experience to develop your own custom profiles. So stay tuned for the next segments. So please subscribe to my YouTube woodworking channel, where I share more of my woodworking techniques, my woodworking philosophy, my thoughts on woodworking, and all the challenges I've experienced. And I introduce some of the new forms of woodworking I've discovered. And also visit woodskills.com, where I have a good selection of my books, both in print and digital format, on woodworking, and all my online courses, and I also offer some woodworking plans. I have maintained a regular blog on what I've got going on in my workshop and in woodworking in general. So enjoy.